man, super excited, man, to be here. Super excited to meet you, Corey, and Ryan, to see you as well. And I'm just like, anytime I have a chance to chat with anyone in the music space, specifically doing things that are somewhat similar to the stuff that I'm doing musically, it's always exciting. And on this show, I have started to kind of make it a little bit of a priority to have more and more people in the music as well as just creative art space on. And like what I've learned, and I think I'm on episode 68 now. This will be 69, 70, something like that. I have some more editing and all that, ones that are coming out, but it's just a wealth of knowledge that I get, and just great experience and great vibes from everyone. So definitely appreciate you guys being here. And let me start off by just asking, how are you both doing today?
Doing great. Weather's nice out here. Feeling good.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm doing well. Thanks for having us.
Of course, man.
I listened to the interview with Matthew Fetcher on the way up here, and also with Tobias. And so it's really cool I don't know, I love the positive vibes you bring to the channel, and it's exciting to be a part of it.
Really appreciate that. I think so. Appreciate the kind words, and I think it's really cool that having these conversations, right? And then fast forward a few years from now, let's say, and for myself and for you guys to be able to kind of look at where we were at this snapshot in time is very, very exciting to me. It's part of the reason that I started doing this show. And all my episodes are on YouTube, but I recently put all my episodes on my website as well, on carealexperience.com, so people can go there. And eventually I'm going to actually take some of them off of YouTube and have all of them on my website. That's like the eventual plan. But just kind of going through these old episodes and looking at ones from now close to a year ago, that sort of nostalgic feeling that I expected and was looking forward to kind of getting, I'm starting to get in certain old episodes. So it's a great thing. And super excited to kind of dive in and learn about you guys' background and all that kind of stuff. So let's start with Corey. So Corey, souLyft, or how do you pronounce your Instagram handle?
Yes,
what's the deal there?
souLyft. It's kind of funny hearing out loud though, because usually it's always online. But
exactly. souLyft. Okay.
It's kind of a mix up of my last name, which is Loftus. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of taken on a life of its own, and positive vibes, like Ryan was saying, and soul lifting a little bit. So that's what's
I like it. Let's jump in. Let's. I want both of you, like, high level, however long or short you want it to be, but just high level. Just tell me and tell my audience a little bit about each of you. Let's start with Corey, and then we'll go to Ryan.
Sweet. Yeah. So I've been in music basically my whole life, starting with like the band stuff in high school, and then out of that in college, School of Music, and then transitioned kind of to music production. So I've been doing that now for a little over a decade, and was engineering and kind of playing a lot of people's records, and then kind of switched in the last 2 to 3 years, actually only 2 years now, to making my own content and music and kind of starting a solo thing. And that's when as you know, in music, you kind of have to do a lot of different things. Like, I work in music, but I record, I play, I mix live sound. And one of those things is make drum samples. So I started making drum samples, and within the first few months of that is when I reached out to Ryan about creating SDS-X, which is a drum sample app that uses those sounds. Just because my goal is to inspire other people to be creative. And getting those sounds out to as many people as possible and to make it accessible to everyone is kind of my goal. So I reached out to Ryan, who already had like a shell of a drum app, and it was just super exciting working with him, and it's just been a great partnership. And now we're here a year, almost 2 years after the first iteration of the app, and we're doing a major update on it. So we're trying to get the word out. That's where I'm at right now. And I mean, there's a lot of holes in that story, but I'm sure we'll get to those at some point.
Sure. Excellent. Thanks so much for the background. And how about you, Ryan?
Yeah. So when Corey told me we were going to do this interview, one of the things he told me about you is that you're a math teacher.
Yeah.
And I am also, or recently quit, but I've been a math teacher for the last 5 years, taught high school, and some middle school math. I was working at a pretty small private school in Southern Oregon, and really enjoyed that. But I've always been interested in music, and I've been learning audio development, iOS development, and always kind of had that aspiration to eventually do my own thing. And this is the year that I think like I'm able to do it. So I quit teaching at the end of this last school year, and I'm working on music apps full time. And it's been really exciting to work with Corey. My first app that did a lot better than I expected, it kind of gave me a lot of confidence, is called AutoPad. And it's kind of designed for worship musicians to be able to play like a soft drone sound behind their music. And it was just a super simple app. And, you know, I kind of made it as a project for my own learning. And I put it on the App Store, and it got a lot more traction than I ever expected.
Wow,
and
awesome.
It gave me some income, and it gave me some confidence to like keep learning and keep doing stuff. And so, you know, then Corey kind of approached me about working on this new project, and we've been doing that, and I'm just really excited to be on this kind of new chapter in my life.
That's awesome, man. So first off, let me also say how coincidental and incredible it is about the math teacher thing that you just mentioned, that I also just ended my math teaching career after 2 short years, once prior to COVID and once during COVID, and for very similar reasons, you know, that you just mentioned, to kind of, you know, knowing that me having my own business, so I have a tutoring and mentoring and now piano lessons business that I focus on. Matter of fact, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, today and tomorrow, are my 2 days out of the week that I'm fully invested in that, from like around 3 o'clock to like 9 o'clock each day, one-on-one as well as small group workshops. And then outside of that, for the other days in the week and the weekends, is when I'm able to do a lot more of the stuff related to music. And it's just a real blessing and just super exciting. Like, first of all, I'll just say this, that I'm really excited to hear from both of you guys about more about the app, and like what that conversation was like. And even I know you just mentioned, Ryan, about like giving yourself like some experience in learning how to develop apps and stuff like that. So let me jump in and ask this question first to start with. Like, what were your first steps in learning app development? Was this a YouTube sort of research thing? Was this like just kind of going all around, asking around? Like, what did you kind of do to kind of get the ball rolling to understand how to develop an app?
Yeah, well, in college, I did take some programming classes. My major was not computer science, but I did take a couple introductory, like C++ classes. And so I knew what it was. And, you know, before I started teaching, I'd kind of considered that as a possible future avenue. And so I wanted to explore it. And so literally, yeah, doing the iOS app, I just kind of Googled, make your first iOS app. I found some free video course. And coincidentally, the app that, you know, they taught you how to make in that course was an audio related app. So I was kind of able to think, oh, okay, so if I want it to make this sound and I want to, you know, do this, then I'll change this. And so it gave me a good starting point.
Sure.
But really it was just, you know, kind of starting with just knowing what programming is, and then searching on YouTube. And since then, there's been a lot of Google searches and YouTube videos along the way.
Yeah. Very cool. And so, Corey, tell me and everyone here, who is no one else here right now, but when this airs, there will be people here. So tell us a little bit about the latest app, your drum machine app, and like sort of the vision behind it, what it is for people who haven't heard of it. And I know you mentioned earlier about, the current and I guess future of the app with like a latest update. So like share a little bit about that, for me, please.
For sure. Yeah. So, like I said earlier, originally the intention of the app was to kind of get drum samples more accessible to people, and it was very lined up with Ryan's first app with trying to support like worship musicians and worship teams with some resources for their teams that aren't like hardware necessarily, but just more accessible and more affordable. So the app originally was and is still a drum sample pad, essentially. Similar to like a Roland sample pad or like an Alesis sample pad. And basically it's just a trigger. So in the original iteration of SDS-X, you could play it with your fingers by tapping on 9 pads, or you could hook an external device up to it if you had like a MIDI input for your iPad or iPhone, or you could sequence it via MIDI. And then this newest update that we're super excited about is that we have a built-in sequencer. So it's a 16-step sequencer, and each pad has its own 16-step sequencer, essentially. So you have 9 drum pads that you can sequence.
Very cool.
And so another big update of that too is that we added Aud3 compatibility.
Oh, that's big. Yeah.
So originally it was standalone, just as a resource for people that not necessarily were into iOS music making. But that was a big part of this update, was like we wanted to make this a lot more in depth, but also just like a lot more fun to play. Because, tapping out a beat is fun. But all drums that you hear in music production are gridded and are sequenced and are very lined up, and it's a little hard to do that on a touch screen. So yeah, I'm super excited about with the sequencer and quantizing and all that stuff. That's
very cool, and that's the exact impression I got when you and I corresponded, however many months ago that was, when I had a chance to check out the app well before this latest update. I had a blast using it for what it was. To your point, me, using a wealth of other iOS apps, I saw this app as someone who, like my wife, for example, who's not into music production at all, right? But she can come in, I can say, hey, 9 pads, go ahead and knock yourself out. And it's like very, 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 very intuitive for that person. And now, like you just said, being able to sort of still have that audience and still, I haven't looked at is the latest version out already, or is it on its way?
It's not quite out. We're still in beta.
Okay.
The plan is a few weeks from now.
Okay.
To launch it.
Yeah. Those are always the famous last words, and then it turns into a few decades or something. No.
Yeah, right.
I know what it is.
It's real close. It's real close.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. Yeah, to just allow for another subset of audiences who want to use this in an AUM or Beatmaker 3 or whatever they use to make music. Here's another resource that's available for them. And so, Corey, you mentioned earlier that you were in band. So were you a drummer? Did you play drums?
Yeah, I started off on the glockenspiel, did the whole bell ballad situation.
Okay.
And then did like jazz band and stuff in high school too. So yeah, I've been going since the 5th grade.
Wow.
In traditional music upbringing, I guess you'd say.
Yeah. And Ryan, keyboardist?
Keyboards. Yeah. I grew up playing piano, doing piano lessons.
Nice.
Resenting my parents. And then, kind of found it again later on in high school and college.
Yeah.
And,
I'm that guy who, whenever I see anything, whether it's a live piano out at a park somewhere, for example, there's like live pianos that they have, 3 of them in Metuchen Township near where I live. and for people to just, it's like donated, I guess, from some organization, and people can just sit there and play. And I'm like, this is pretty damn amazing. I absolutely love this. I love the idea of like certain things, like such as playing outside now. That's like my thing, as well as just playing in places other than inside my studio. And that could be playing the piano, or it could be having my OPZ, which is, I can't see it on my screen, but it's somewhere back there on that little black thing that's in that case.
I think I see it.
Yeah, that little, yeah. So I've been using this thing right here. Have you seen this? The Teenage Engineering OB4? Heard of it? Seen it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I was real close to getting one. You're making it harder to not get one.
Oh so. Man, well, I'm glad to be that positive / negative influence. Yeah, I've been having just an absolute blast with it. There's been so much, on the internet. There's a lot of people who have their opinions of things, before they have a chance to try it out. And I'm not a Teenage Engineering spokesperson at all by any stretch. But I'm just having an absolute blast using it, for many reasons. But one of them is the sound quality is so good on it. And just yesterday I was at a park with my iPad and with the OPZ, and I'm just literally jamming out. And it wasn't like a crowded day at the park, but whenever people would like ride their bikes or walk by and they just see me standing there on a picnic table, just jamming out extra hard, one could only think, like, I'm thinking, I wonder what those people are thinking right now about me. Like, oh, look at that guy over there. He's just really having a blast by himself. There's no one else around me. It was just me there. But it was just such a good time. So I've been really enjoying, doing music stuff without the headphones on that I'm so much more used to doing. Having it played out for the trees and nature, and just hearing it like through actual speakers has been sort of transformative for me. Now, like, I feel like that's how I always want to be doing music rather than having headphones on.
That's really cool. Yeah. Outdoors and nature is like way more inspiring than inside in a dark room with you could have all the best gear in the world, but if you're like out on top of a mountain or wherever, it's like, way more inspiring. One of my first OPZ only music releases was when I took a road trip across down to Texas from Oregon.
Oh, wow.
With my wife, and I released 5 singles, I think, from that, and it was all kind of like inspired by different like landmarks.
Oh, I love it. What's the name of that one?
So I called them like the landmark singles, but there's like one called Grand Canyon and Cascades and a couple more I forget the name of, but I released it 2019-ish. Okay. Or maybe that was... Actually, no, I released that during the very beginning of 2020. So January 2020 is when those all came out.
That's awesome. Where can I and others listen to that?
Spotify, if you look up souLyft. Okay. And it's all the ones that are the picture of the OPZ with different colored backgrounds.
Gotcha. That's so cool. Yeah, when there's story behind, there's always stories behind music, but when we know about the stories behind certain songs or music, that is just amazing to me. So like hearing that as I go listen to it after, like later on today, I want to check that out and just get a feel for, like you said, the different locations. And I really, appreciate you sharing that. I'm looking forward to checking it out. And so Ryan, when it comes to the keyboard, are you, are you better at sight reading or like playing by ear or playing chord lead sheets? Like what's your favorite and best strong suit?
Well, I took classical lessons in, elementary school and went through that. And then when I sort of rediscovered the piano, that was in the context of playing in bands and playing from lead sheets and chords and all of that. And I kind of quickly from there went down the synth rabbit hole. And so I've lately been having just a lot of fun with synthesizers and music technology. And, I think one of the kind of ironies for me is that, I initially developed AutoPad because I wanted to have some extra cash for buying synthesizers. But now, I've actually kind of sadly not been playing as much lately because I've been spending so much time on the code. But I enjoy, anything with keys. And I'll noodle around on it and make a sound.
That's fantastic. So do you own any of those? I don't have any yet, but I recently I was at Guitar Center and I was there for hours. I was like, I had some free time. I literally went there. It was like a Saturday or Sunday evening, like late afternoon. And the store wasn't crowded at all. And I'm just like, again, for the same reason of like being able to turn music up, I'm like playing on like the Roland Phantom, which I actually have a Phantom sitting right over here, a Phantom 6. But they have the weighted key. As a piano player, I prefer, the weighted keys. So I was just messing around with this thing and I was like making a beat in the store and I was just doing all this stuff, had the volume blasted really loud. And then I went over and discovered some of the, I guess they're called portable synths, the 37 key type deals, like, this size kind of thing. And I don't have any of those, cause part of me was kind of like, okay, like this Phantom can do pretty much so much. And I don't know if I need, a smaller thing that can maybe do less than this, but my mind was blown, cause I was wrong about that, which is to say like some of these, like, what did they have? They had one called the Korg OP6. Have you heard of that one before?
I've heard of it. Okay. I don't know much about it.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know much either. I'm just saying it like I don't know much about it. They just happen to have that one there connected to some great speakers. And I was playing with that and I was just having a blast. I almost saw myself. I was like, kind of like you, Corey. I was like, with you with the speaker here I was like, I think I might need to buy this right now. Like I might need to just come home with this item. Like I know I don't need it at all, but I think I might have to get it. I ended up not getting it, but it's something about, that portable. And like what I was noticing is like the ones with several knobs and buttons on it that you can quickly make significant changes to sound. I'm not really that much into sound design myself. Going into menus and tweaking things. I'm more about like using the presets and kind of making something from what's already there. That's just like how I usually do things. But having the stuff physically on there was really telling as to how fun, it can be.
Oh yeah, for sure. One of the things I love about synths is that the knobs are right there and you can just interact with the sound and it turns music into this kind of exploratory thing where you're exploring this like sonic space and you're interacting with the parameters and stuff. And it's also one of the things that's kind of fun about having a iPhone or iPad be able to do music is that you get some of that kind of tactile fun aspect where you can touch the screen and affect the sound and explore in that way.
Yeah.
Instead of, clicking around with your mouse.
Oh man, that part right there is a nightmare for me. As someone who I used to use Ableton when I first kind of got into music production, and because I knew that the vast majority of people have a digital audio workstation they use on their computer, and so Ableton I made a lot of great stuff in there. I somewhat enjoyed using it, but overall, I was realizing that it just wasn't working for me nearly as much as making music on a keyboard, or at the time I didn't even have an iPad. But the clicking of the mouse and the computer thing, that interface just didn't work for me musically. So I totally know and can relate to what you're saying there. Let me ask you guys a question. So Corey and Ryan here, you have a tag team kind of thing going on with regards to SDS-X that you just mentioned. Ryan sort of heading up the development of the app. Now, Corey, I know you mentioned that you're a drummer. Are you sort of the one recording and creating the loops that are kind of being used in the app? Is that sort of the involvement there?
Yeah. So the original partnership, I guess, was the fact that I had kind of a library of sounds. Yeah. That I was selling, and they're still out there. It's on simpledrumsamples.com, so you can still get the WAV files as their own. But so I had the samples, and Ryan had a kind of shell of an app that it had 9 pads, and you could play some drum samples. And then so when we decided to start working together, he came back to me and was like, "All right, what do you envision this looking like? And what are some of the key features that you would like in the app?" So I kind of brainstormed a bit and sent back a huge list that Brian just knocked out.
Wow.
It seemed like what this guy can do with code, especially I knew you were self-taught, but hearing it again, I'm like, I don't understand how he can do all this stuff. Cause I don't really know a ton about coding and I'm enjoying learning it. But it's also fun to not know and to be like, hey, can we do this? Or is this difficult? And I think that that's a lot of what I bring to the partnership is like the ability to see outside the box a little bit more and not know the technical aspect of it.
Sure.
And then help solve the problems and come up with stuff. But it was all Ryan's idea for the sequencer because, I mean, like he said, he's into synths, and obviously, if you've seen my Instagram, I'm into synths and sequencing and stuff like that. So I think it was a really good next step for the app. And another thing that I'm adding to it is we're adding some more sound, more sample packs in the app with this most recent update. And then, just kind of designing the stock kits and the stock sequences that will come with the app. We'll both do a little bit of that, but that's what I'm focused on over probably the next couple days is trying to get all those lined up.
That's fantastic. So that makes a lot of sense too. I've been listening to, I probably say this every episode now, but that's okay. Maybe eventually I might get sponsored by this company. There's a podcast that I listen to called How I Built This. And there's like, it's an NPR podcast and they interview, this sounds so crisp and clear, guys. I'm sorry. It just sounds so clean. Like this mic, I think you have the same mic, maybe. Good, I don't know if this is that this?
We have two different ones. This one is the SM7.
Okay. Yeah. It just like, cause on Zoom, it's just not it, but it just feels so crisp and clean. I love it. I'm excited for the post production here. But yeah, they interview just, any company that you can think of from, I don't know, let's see, Dell computers, souLyft, to not to be mistaken with souLyft, but the Lyft, and I'm drawing a blank now, of course, but Starbucks and just any company that's successful, they interview, and it's already like 200 plus episodes, and it's an amazing stories that I'm like learning. Every episode is like getting more inspired and like learning some stuff. And so what you just mentioned about like the technical person and then the person who is, I guess we can say, a little bit more on the creative side when it comes to creating the packs, but also thinking of some ideas like, people might enjoy if they can do X, Y, and Z, even though you mentioned the sequencing part was part Ryan there. But I think just like that collaboration between those two things, like, it's very important. And it's important to, I guess, note that in most successful businesses, like, there's not like a person who's excels at all of that stuff, right? There's usually a person who excels more on the technical side, and then maybe someone with the ideas and that type of thing. So it sounds like you guys have an awesome partnership. Let me ask this question. So when it comes to the future for both of you guys, like looking ahead a few years, perhaps, do you see yourselves having SDS-X, and perhaps even down the road, maybe another app that's something else related to music? But do you see yourselves like kind of having the app development sort of at the core of what it is that you guys will be focused on for the next few years?
I'll let you answer that because I know that answer for you, so you could.
Well, yeah, certainly for me, my goal right now is to make it as a full-time, self-employed app developer, doing music apps. It's what I'm interested in. And I guess Corey and I haven't really talked about our own projects in the future. Like, will we do things together in the future? But I mean, I'm definitely, open to it.
Yeah. That's incredible.
But I plan to continue making music-related apps.
Yeah, it's been super fun working on it, and it seems like it's been out for a long time, but also like 2020, right? Like 2020 was a year that was a decade, and so it's been out for a long time, and I'm excited to see where this goes. And Ryan's thrown a couple of his app ideas out that he has now that he has had more time to just think about what he wants to do with development, and I'm super excited about everything he has. So hopefully we'll be able to work together on some other apps and.
Very cool.
Right.
That sounds great. Yeah, I think it's definitely always important to sort of have some plan, and then I guess along the road, like what I've learned too is just enjoying the importance of enjoying the journey wherever it is that we all see ourselves wanting to get to. So Ryan, a question for you is this. So if someone came up to you and said, hey, Ryan, I heard you on the KL Experience, soon to be called something else, maybe. And I have an idea of an app that I think will change the game for music people as well as visual artists. And I think that it is an idea that I don't see anywhere right now. And I have no idea how to create it, but it sounds like you're great at creating apps / websites or program, or not a little bit.
I don't do websites.
Okay, so apps. Yeah. Fair enough. That's good, because the same thing.
Just apps.
Same thing will be effective. And again, this person who I'm talking about, we don't know who this person is. It could be anybody, right? But
could be anybody.
Exactly. But if someone had that idea, how do you? I guess, are you open to? I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you. Are you open to hearing the idea and talking about it and discussing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I definitely say we should talk. But also, I'm only one guy, and I have a certain skill set, and I think I try to be realistic about that, and so I can't necessarily just partner up with anyone, although I might want to. But yeah, I would say we should definitely talk.
All right, let's do a beer. Let's get a beer one day or something. Virtual beer. There we go. That's a thing, right? There we go.
Let's do it.
That should be the new name.
Yeah, the virtual beer.
No, yeah, I'd love. Okay. So I'm guessing that this person is you.
Yeah,
and I'd love to hear the ideas sometime.
Awesome. I have to patent it first, and then we can talk. No,
Sign an NDA.
Yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, I probably do need to do that. I haven't really told, many people about it, but it's something I have on my iPad, on a notes kind of app stuff. One day, so listening to this podcast, and just waking up every day, thinking music, thinking how to make a positive impact in people's life. All these types of things are what really move me, and that's kind of like the direction things are going. That's why I have a tutoring business. That's why I left teaching, so that I can spend more time on tutoring and on making an impact sort of on my terms, the way that I think that it needs to be made. And also like not just an impact, but like sort of a legacy kind of thing. Like, I thought to myself, I'm a musical artist, and I know that there are so many people like me, as well as so many visual artists out there who are extremely talented, who would find value in what we'll have a beer over and discuss. At least I believe that to be the case, right? Who knows if that's true? I could be completely off base. You say, you know what, Kevin, that sounds good. It's not going to work, and here's why. And I'll be like, I'll be happy to listen and sort of hear that. But we'll definitely set that up. And who knows if this part of the conversation is going to be in the interview, in the episode? Maybe it will. It'll just be like whatever. Like, it's just part of it. Who cares? We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to that. I definitely am. Let me ask you guys two more questions. These are questions that I used to always ask. Now I ask only sometimes. But I just feel like it would be good to ask right now. And let's do this, since you guys I'm going to look at it as like one answer from both of you, so you can like talk about it and stuff like that. So the first question is, if you have a chance to put something on a billboard, what would it say or show? It could be a picture, it could be a word, it could be some words, it could be a picture and some words.
No, I think that mine... You talk about being positive, and a big thing that's resonated with me and kind of come to light, because obviously, like I said, like doing music, you do a lot of different things, and I was trying to like figure out like what that one thing is that like kind of solidifies all of that. And I think I said it once before, but like probably something like inspire to create, like just getting people out there to create more instead of consuming. Because I think that there's a lot more value in creating. And then I'd probably have to put like the SDS-X logo like under
sure. To create.
But yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's mine. And I mean, you could take it too if you want, but we never talked about it. So.
Okay, very cool.
Corey is authorized to speak on my behalf anytime he wants. You asked this question in the interview with Matthew Fetcher that I listened to, and I had to think about it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a hard question. Like, what would you put on a billboard? But I would just, try to put something basically to encourage people to just keep going for it. So maybe like keep at it, because I think one of the I guess just for my experiences learning iOS development is you run into a lot of problems.
Sure.
And some of those problems you're like not even sure what it actually is, and you have to just go down these rabbit holes online and you can get kind of bogged down and like, oh man, this is really discouraging. But so I would just say, keep going. And I guess my hope is that, I've been able to now kind of look back on my progress, and I've been able to see like, okay, I've solved all these problems, and I have a fair amount of confidence that I can solve problems in the future. But I guess that's what I would say is for maybe people, whatever you're starting out at.
That makes a lot of sense.
Just keep going.
I love both of those. Those are, and a lot of these, most, if not all of these responses are just so thought provoking and profound because, these are things that could really change the game for someone who's driving, who is thinking about not keeping on going because he or she, has had too many L's, as they say, or too many challenges in a row, and it's really difficult for them. And they're kind of, when I say keep on going, they're thinking about, not continuing pursuing whatever their passion is or something. And then the inspired to create thing too is really resonates with me, because when I see, and it's no judgment, but it is a little judgment, but not really. When I see people that are so, that are just so about consuming content, I see a lot of that, a lot of consuming content, whether it's, the TV shows or movies or sports. I'm a big Knicks fan. I watched almost all the Knicks games like last year. Like I loved watching the Knicks games, right? But like I'm not that much into football. So last year I didn't watch a second of football. This, or maybe the Super Bowl, I was about to say playoff, maybe a little bit of playoffs and stuff. But like the whole, like right now, like there's only so much capacity in my brain as a creator and as an entrepreneur where like I don't, is watching, Stephen A. and talk about football, is that something that's bringing like some value into my life? Like people watch that every day. People are like watching SportsCenter every single day because they need to know. And again, it's not a judgment towards them. It's just, it's not me. And I think that a lot of those people, there's different levels of creative energy that everyone has, but I think that it would be awesome for more people, to your point, Corey, to be a little bit more inspired, to tap into that a little bit more, right? To start, you probably hear conversations about people wanting to learn how to play the piano, but I'm probably too old now. I missed that boat. Not really. I learned, 4 years ago. I'm 34 now. I started playing the piano when I turned 30. I was like, I want to get sort of back into it. I played a little bit when I was much younger, kind of like you, Ryan. But it's one of the best decisions ever. It's one of those things, music wise for me, or having some creative outlet. That whether it can be anything, it could be sitting there, I don't know, doodling and drawing and painting or whatever, just like getting out there, and there's other value to it, that I think is just so important that I'm learning, in the process. So definitely appreciate, both of you guys sharing that. And so let me ask this next question, about 5 artists. I think I may have asked, this question to Matt as well. And I want to say Matt had a different response to this one, didn't he? Because I don't think he gave the names of artists. I think Matt gave.
Yeah, I don't think he ever said 5. But he had a good answer.
Didn't he like empower other artists like us as like we are, right? What did he say again?
Yeah, no, he talked about like how there's this idea now that all the good music has kind of happened and the stuff we hear now isn't that great. But he's like, I think music is the best it's ever been. And I was like, with all the tools people have available, it's an exciting time to be listening to music.
I couldn't agree more.
Because we have a technology that we can pull from so many different eras and styles.
Yeah, that is a fact. And before I forget, I was going to ask earlier, so I'm probably not even going to ask that music question now, but I want to let you guys know that, what we were talking about, something we were talking about earlier that reminded me about this show on Apple TV. And we talk about consuming content. Well, there is certain content that I love consuming, ones that I learn and am thoroughly entertained by and leave feeling motivated. And have you guys heard of the producer Mark Ronson before? Maybe.
Sounds familiar.
He's from England, and you guys know Amy Winehouse, right? So
yeah. Is he behind Uptown
that's
Funk?
The guy.
Is that,
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's how I remember his
so
name. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You do, yeah. He's one of my favorite producers, but also he's not like in my top, like there's a lot of producers that I like better than him, but I really, really like his stuff. But he is like the child of music in this show, where each episode is about a different concept of music, such as sampling, and one was about drums, and one is about reverb, and it's like these different musical concepts. And he's talking to, and it's very high production value and super just interesting. They go into this, like the longest, recorded reverb in this underground cave thing, and they record it, and it's like, this is really like interesting stuff that I think both of you guys would really enjoy. If you get an opportunity around to try it. It's called, I didn't say the name, sorry. It's called, Watch the Sound. Watch the Sound.
That sounds so cool. I've been on Ted Lasso.
Oh,
so,
I heard.
I love the Apple TV.
Yeah,
Ted Lasso
I heard
so
great
good,
things about that.
That sounds super interesting.
And it sounds like you have. If you watch that, it sounds like you have Apple TV as well. So that's perfect. So yeah, definitely check that out. So let's start with Ryan. So the question is just like for someone that's out there that is interested in learning about app development and wanting to get into that, like what. I think I asked the question earlier about the first step. What was the first step that you did? But if there's any other further words that you may have or advice that you may have for that person on how to get started, if you can share that.
I mean, I would say, just start with a Google search. Start with YouTube. It's amazing what is on YouTube. My wife and I are trying to do a bathroom remodel right now, and we don't know anything about that. But we're learning, and I guess I would just say, if you have the curiosity, seek out that thing you're trying to do, and maybe also, if you know people that might be knowledgeable, try to ask them for help and stuff. Cause I think that's one thing I could have benefited from and maybe learned a lot faster, is if I had reached out to mentors or people that, because I think there's people out there that want to be helpful and want to, guide people and teach people. And I guess I would also just say, don't try to start with too complex of a project. Try to start with a simple project. And that's why, I feel like I got really lucky with my first app, because I knew it was a simple app that, kind of a beginner could build the first version of, but also an app that is useful. So I think that having something that's simple, but also useful kind of helps with the motivation, because some of the simple projects you might make, it's like calculate your tip, when you go out to eat, which okay, that's kind of fun, but it's maybe not inspiring. So try to find something that is simple and also inspiring would also be my advice.
I like that a lot, actually.
Simple and useful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like that. That's great. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And for Corey, so I have a question about sort of sample packs. I know you mentioned creating and selling drums on your website and stuff like that. So for someone who is interested in getting in that space, maybe they have just started, or maybe they've been producing for a little while, maybe for a few years actually, and they realize that they've amassed a ton of super loops, as they're called, right? Like loops that sound really good. There's 6 or 7 different sounds on there, and they're realizing that other producers that are out there that rely on these loops to start their music, chopping samples, slowing down, all that good stuff. Like, and they want to kind of establish a presence in that space to start maybe selling and, creating these, selling / giving away, maybe even for free. Any advice for that person?
Yeah, I think giving away is a great idea, just as just a value added thing, like you mentioned before. But I would also, my advice would be to like niche down as much as possible and be very focused, and then be consistent with what you put out there. This is along with the sample thing, but the reason I think that my Instagram did so well, is just as far as my brand with the souLyft stuff, is because it has been very focused. And so when someone comes to your landing page, or in this case, my Instagram profile, they know what they're going to get before they even watch another video. So people, if your stuff is good and you're consistent, the people that want it or that you're serving will find you.
That makes total sense. Great advice there as well. Niching down is something I hear quite often, and it used to be, and it still remains for me, somewhat of a challenge, because I feel like I'm great at everything. I want to do everything. I want to do multiple different things. And I say that somewhat in jest, but also, not great at everything, but let's put it that way, a lot of things that I'm interested in, that I've strategized and kind of figure it out how to correlate them down into that sort of core thing. And that's kind of the constant journey. And I'm going to ask one more question. You mentioned Instagram, and then we'll wrap up. And by the way, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure we talked about iOS, obviously. So you guys know the Apple event is today at 1:00 this time. So I think 10:00 you guys' time, like 9 minutes. Yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. I want to see what they're talking about. I would love for them to have a USB-C port on the iPhone, but it's never going to happen, probably, right? It's just not going to happen.
No, they'll probably go portless first.
I mean, something as simple as like, I have a USB-C on one end and a Lightning adapter on the other end, the cable. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that's what came with my iPhone 12 here, 12 Pro. And I want to be able to connect that to my OPZ and get audio and video, like record stuff on my OPZ with my phone. Cannot do that at all. And
that would be rad.
I don't understand why.
There's a way.
That would be cool.
With that cable?
Is there a way?
Yeah. No, not with that cable, but if you get the camera connection kit. So it's a Lightning to USB A, basically. And that's how I record all of my videos. If it's just an OPZ, it's digital audio. And you can record it into voice memos, you can record it into GarageBand.
The Lightning connection kit is the key.
So it's a
camera connection kit, is the key for that. Okay, and then you can just have that and then your cable and be out and about and recording and monitoring through the OPZ headphones, of course.
Yeah. Yep, it lives in my OPZ case.
Okay, so
it's just like
I'll have
a little
get
recording
that. Okay,
setup. Yeah.
Good to know. Great. All right, so last question is about Instagram. So, have you guys ever taken Ryan? I'm assuming you have an Instagram too, Ryan. I think most people do have one.
I have one.
Okay,
I rarely post.
Ryan posts whenever he climbs the mountain.
I can't wait to see it. I'm literally going to go there. There's going to be 9 posts there, and each of them is you at the top of a mountain. Can't wait to see it. I'm very excited for this. So maybe question a little bit more geared towards Corey in that case. But so Instagram for creators, good or bad, stressful? Any tips on how to make it not so bad? Because I know there's some things about it that are comparison and all that type of thing.
Yeah. I would say just try to find the real people. I know it's kind of weird advice, but like there's so many like just bots and just people that are doing it in the comparison game, but there's a lot of genuine people yourself that are out there like creating and trying to inspire other people, and they can be great collaborators. So
that's
try to
cool.
find the real
Instagram,
people.
try to find the real people. Or I'll put you underneath your thing, like Corey, try to find the real people. I like it. That does make a lot of sense.